In some previous presentations, we have had an introduction to the concept of action research. We answered what action research is and why do we conduct action research and what is the general process of action research in social sciences. Today's presentation is focused on briefly discussing the strengths and challenges of action research. So, like other forms of research, action research has certain strengths, certain advantages, and certain challenges. So, first, what are the general strengths of action research? The first thing is that action research is generally helpful in understanding and improvement of practices. So as we already know that the basic aim of action research, the basic philosophy of action research is actually the improvement of practice of practitioners. So this type of research is very helpful in, first of all, getting insights into or understanding the practices that practitioners actually go through, and also it helps in the improvement of those practices. Secondly, this kind of research, action research, has practical utility for practitioners in the field who might find traditional research-based knowledge too theoretical to understand and apply. So as we know that in the traditional concept of research, the research is generally immersed in theoretical grounding and in theoretical discussion, while action research, the focus of action research is utilitarian and very practical. And so practitioners might find the outcomes and the processes of this research more useful in terms of informing and improving their practices. Then the other important strength or utility of action research is that it eliminates the theory-practice divide. So generally we know that in many cases there is the theory-practice divide in traditional research, where certain academics or researchers conduct research while the practitioner's role is actually just to apply the findings of that research in their practices. But action research is a research that is generally conducted by the practitioners, and so there is actually the theory practice divide is eliminated. Then action research also helps in the democratization, the localization, and the collaboration in the process and product of research. So as we know that in the traditional research, there is a divide. So there are certain specialists, academics, and researchers who have generally monopolized the process and product of research, and there is the outcomes of that research are generally in a generalized form, that is the development of theories. But again, that kind of research is generally conducted by researchers in a kind of isolation from the actual or real world. But action research deals with all of these issues, and democratization actually means that practitioners can actually practice this type of research, and so one does not have to have certain expertise in the field of research or specific set of skills that are that is actually very specialized form. And again, this type of research is based on collaboration. So all of these can be considered as strengths of action research. Then action research is helpful for practitioners in developing a critical and reflective outlook on their practices. So generally practitioners are expected. Practitioners such as, for example, in the field of education, teachers or lawyers or nurses and doctors, these people, these practitioners are expected to just take theories that researchers have developed and apply those theories in their fields, often without critically and reflectively looking at their practices or the relevance of the theoretical knowledge to particular fields or to particular situations. But action research helps practitioners in developing critical and reflective outlooks because they conduct research in their own fields, in their own limited areas, and the process of research itself, the process of questioning their practices, help them in developing as critical practitioners rather than just practitioners. And lastly, the action research may also help in developing hypotheses for exploration on a broader level through the more scientific research. So, as you can see that these are the most important strengths of the action research. Now, like other types of research, action research has certain challenges as well. The first thing is that this type of research is often lesser scientific rigor, especially scientific rigor in the traditional positivistic view of scientific research, which is where we need to have elaborate research designs and planning in order to conduct research. So this might be one of the ways where the findings or reliance on action research might be challenged. Then there is lesser focus on appropriate planning and implementation due to the evolving nature of the cyclic process of action research. So as we know that in contrast to the traditional research, which is generally like a one-way traffic where you begin with a set of questions, then elaborate designs are prepared and then they are applied. In the action research, the action research is the type of research which evolves over time and the process is cyclic. And so one can say that the inherent flexibility of the action research is a kind of challenge for those who are involved in the process of action research. Then the action research is conducted by practitioners who may lack adequate scientific theoretical backgrounds needed for understanding social phenomena in depth and in a scientific way. So again, as we know that the action research is generally conducted by practitioners rather than specialist researchers, and so practitioners might have lesser knowledge of the scientific theories and lesser background in the scientific theories. Then context boundedness and lack of generalizability of findings or implications. Again, as we know that action researches are bounded in context and in peculiarities, so generalization in a scientific that is generally expected of scientific research studies is a bit difficult in the action research processes. Then the issues related to authenticity, validity, and reliability, mainly because of an element of subjectivity on the part of the researchers in action research. Again, these are issues that might lead to challenges in terms of impacting the authenticity of the action research process. And lastly, there is a complex interplay of the dual roles of action researcher as researchers and as practitioners simultaneously. So as we know that the action researcher is a researcher and a practitioner at the same time. So dealing with this duality of the role of the researcher as practitioner and as researcher is something that researchers often find challenging. So these are some of the challenges of action research. So in summary, action research has both its strengths and also its limitations or challenges. So while conducting action research or embarking on the journey of conducting action research, we need to have insights into both its benefits and its challenges.